Imagine a world where knights roam the land, dragons fill the skies, and honor is more valuable than gold. This is the world that Don Quixote envisioned as he picked up his lance and helmet to become a knight-errant.
A knight-errant? Like those from the fairy tales?
Exactly. But our hero, Don Quixote, isn't from a fairy tale. He's from La Mancha, and after reading too many chivalric romances, he decides it's his duty to revive knighthood and serve his nation, armed with nothing but an old suit of armor and a horse too old for battle.
That sounds like a midlife crisis if I ever heard one.
You could say that, but there's something admirable about his unwavering commitment, don't you think? He even recruits a simple farmer, Sancho Panza, to be his faithful squire.
And let me guess, Sancho is the voice of reason?
In a way, yes. He's the down-to-earth realist to Don Quixote's idealistic dreamer. Together, they embark on adventures that blur the lines between reality and fantasy, which is where our story begins.
So, what's the first grand adventure?
Well, Don Quixote attacks Windmills, believing them to be ferocious giants. It's a comical yet poignant moment that shows just how far he's willing to go for his ideals.
A man fighting windmills, that's an image that sticks with you. It's like he's fighting his own delusions.
Precisely, and that's the beauty of this story. It's a tale of dreams versus reality, and how sometimes chasing our dreams can lead to the most unexpected journeys. As our delusional knight and his trusty squire venture further, they encounter a group of windmills. To Don Quixote, these are not mere structures but monstrous giants waving their enormous arms.
Giants in the land of La Mancha? That's quite the sight.
Indeed, and with a battle cry that would stir any warrior, Don Quixote charges at them, lance poised to strike.
And how does that go for him?
Not well. The wind picks up, the sails spin, and Quixote is knocked to the ground, his armor clattering. It's a moment of pure farce, yet it's also tragic. He's so caught up in his fantasy that he can't see the reality in front of him.
It's funny and sad at the same time. He's literally tilting at windmills.
Exactly, Olivia. And that phrase has come to define futile endeavors. But there's more to it. It's about the conflict between illusion and reality, a theme that runs deep in the story.
So, what happens next? Does he give up on his quest?
Not our Quixote. He's convinced that an enchanter turned the giants into windmills to rob him of his glory. His spirit remains unbroken, and he's ready to face the next adventure.
Unbreakable spirit, huh? I guess there's a bit of Don Quixote in all of us, chasing dreams no matter the odds.
That's the spirit, Olivia. Now, let's saddle up and see where the road takes our intrepid heroes next. As night falls, our adventurers hear a thunderous pounding that echoes through the darkness. It's the sound of fulling mills at work, but to Don Quixote, it's surely the clamor of some perilous adventure.
Fulling mills? They're used for making cloth, right?
Correct, but in our knight's mind, they're the gates of an enchanted castle or the drums of an enemy army. He's ready to charge into battle once again.
Does Sancho try to stop him?
Oh, he tries. But there's no stopping a man on a mission. Quixote charges, and the noise grows louder. It's a cacophony of hammers and mallets, but to him, it's the sound of glory.
And let me guess, another heroic defeat?
More like a comedic mishap. They're caught in the fulling hammers, tossed around like rag dolls. It's a spectacle that would make anyone laugh, yet it's also a stark reminder of Quixote's disconnect from reality.
It's almost poetic, isn't it? His imagination turns the mundane into the magnificent.
Exactly. It's a testament to the power of perception. Our knight sees the world not as it is, but as it could be. And isn't that a kind of magic?
It is, and it's infectious. I'm starting to see the charm in his madness.
That's the beauty of Don Quixote's tale. It invites us to dream, to see beyond the ordinary, and to find the extraordinary in the everyday. Onward they rode, until they came upon a chain of galley slaves, bound and guarded, being marched to their fate. To Don Quixote, this was a clear injustice, an opportunity to free the oppressed and right the wrongs of the world.
He saw himself as a liberator then?
Indeed, he did. With a fiery speech about freedom and justice, he convinced Sancho to help him attack the guards and break the chains of the slaves.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
And it was. The slaves, once freed, showed no gratitude. Instead, they pelted our heroes with stones and made off with their belongings.
So much for noble deeds. What does that say about gratitude?
It's a complex lesson. Don Quixote's heart was in the right place, but his actions were misguided. It shows that good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes.
True. And I suppose it also speaks to the nature of freedom. Those slaves weren't looking for a knight's charity. They wanted to take control of their own destinies.
Precisely. It's a moment that challenges our understanding of heroism and villainy. Don Quixote's quest is noble, but the world he's trying to save doesn't always conform to his chivalric ideals.
It's a harsh reality check for our knight, but I'm guessing he's not deterred?
Not at all. If anything, it fuels his determination. He believes that the world needs him, now more than ever.
Then let's not keep the world waiting. What's the next chapter in our knight's quixotic journey?
As dawn breaks, our travelers stumble upon a small boat tied to the riverbank. To the imaginative Don Quixote, this is no ordinary boat. It's a vessel sent by some mysterious enchanter to carry them to a place of great adventure.
An enchanted boat? Now that's a new one.
Indeed, and without hesitation, Don Quixote and Sancho Panza set sail, believing the currents will guide them to glory.
And where do these magical currents take them?
Straight into the path of a watermill. The millers, seeing the impending disaster, shout warnings, but Quixote dismisses them as evil enchanters trying to thwart his quest.
Of course, they're enchanters. What else could they be?
Exactly. But despite his valiant efforts, the boat is caught in the mill's wheel, and our heroes are tossed into the water, sputtering and confused.
A wet end to a wild fantasy. But I have to admit, it's never dull with Don Quixote around.
Never dull indeed. And though they emerge soaked and embarrassed, Quixote's spirit remains undampened. He's certain this was just another test by the enchanters.
His optimism is relentless. So, what's next for our soggy knight?
Dry clothes, for one. But beyond that, more adventures await. Don Quixote's quest is far from over, and his imagination knows no bounds. As our journey with Don Quixote continues, they find themselves on a barren moor. It's here that Quixote's imagination conjures up an epic battle. He sees two great armies clashing in the distance, but in reality, it's just two flocks of sheep.
Sheep? How do they become armies in his eyes?
Through the lens of chivalry, everything takes on a grander scale. The dust kicked up by the sheep becomes the smoke of battle. They're bleating the war cries of soldiers.
That's quite the transformation. Does he join the fray?
With gusto, he charges into the battle, swinging his sword, much to the confusion and dismay of the shepherds.
I can only imagine their faces. What happens to the armies?
Scattered to the winds, or rather, scattered by a very bewildered shepherd staff. It's a chaotic scene, and in the end, Quixote is left bruised but unbowed, still convinced of the righteousness of his cause.
His dedication is something else. Even when the world literally beats him down, he stands up for his beliefs.
That's the heart of our knight's tale. No matter how the world tries to correct his vision, he sees what he chooses to see.
It's a powerful message about perception and reality, and it's starting to make me wonder what battles I'm charging into without seeing clearly.
A question worth pondering. And as we follow Don Quixote's adventures, perhaps we'll find some answers. As our tale unfolds, Don Quixote's heart yearns for his beloved Dulcinea, the lady he's vowed to honor with his heroic deeds. But there's a twist. Dulcinea is enchanted, transformed into a peasant girl by an evil sorcerer.
Wait, she's enchanted? That's quite the complication.
Indeed. Quixote is convinced that only his valorous acts can break the spell. He's determined to see her restored to her true form, the beautiful Dulcinea.
A quest for love now. That's a classic.
A classic indeed. But our knight's love is as illusory as his giants. The Dulcinea he sees is actually a farm girl named Aldonza Lorenzo, who has no idea she's the object of Quixote's affections.
So, he's fighting for someone who doesn't even know he exists?
Precisely. It's both humorous and heart-wrenching. His devotion is unwavering, yet it's built on a fantasy.
It's like he's in love with the idea of love itself.
Exactly. And that's what makes Don Quixote's pursuit so poignant. He's chasing an ideal, a dream that's just out of reach.
It's a powerful metaphor. How many of us chase after dreams without realizing they might be just that? Dreams?
More than we'd like to admit, but it's those dreams that give our lives meaning, isn't it?
True. And who knows? Maybe there's a little magic in believing.
That's the spirit. Now, let's continue our journey with Don Quixote as he battles for his lady's love. Deep in the heart of La Mancha lies the mysterious cave of Montesinos, a place shrouded in legend. It's here that Don Quixote embarks on one of his most fantastical adventures yet.
A cave adventure? This sounds intriguing.
Oh, it is. Quixote is lowered into the depths, where he claims to have seen an enchanted realm. He meets knights and ladies from times long past, and even converses with the legendary Montesinos himself.
That's quite the tale. Did all of that really happen?
In Quixote's mind, it did. But when he's pulled from the cave, hours later, he's the only one who's witnessed these marvels. It's a journey that takes place entirely within his imagination.
It's like he's living in his own world, a world where anything is possible.
Precisely, and though we may doubt the reality of his adventure, there's no denying the vividness of his vision. It's a testament to the power of the human mind to create entire worlds within itself.
It's fascinating how he blurs the line between reality and fantasy. It makes you question what's truly real.
Indeed, and it's this ability to dream, to imagine, that makes Don Quixote's story so timeless. It's a celebration of the imagination as a force of nature, as powerful as any windmill or army.
It's inspiring, really, to think that our dreams can be as real as we believe them to be.
That's the magic of Don Quixote. Now, shall we emerge from the cave and see what other wonders await our knight? Our story takes a wild turn as Don Quixote encounters a wagon carrying 2 fierce lions, intended as a gift for the king. The knight, ever eager for a challenge, decides this is a perfect opportunity to demonstrate his valor.
Lions? That's quite a leap from windmills and sheep.
Indeed, Quixote insists on facing the lions in combat, much to the horror of everyone around. The wagon is opened and...
Do they fight?
No, the lions simply yawn and lie down, completely disinterested in Quixote. It's an anticlimactic yet humorous twist that spares our knight from certain doom.
I suppose even lions recognize a hopeless cause when they see one.
Perhaps, but Don Quixote sees it differently. He believes the lions were cowed by his fearsome reputation and declares victory over the king of beasts.
Only Don Quixote could turn a non-event into a triumph.
That's the charm of his character. He finds glory in the mundane and turns defeat into victory through sheer force of will.
It's a lesson in perspective, isn't it? Seeing the world not as it is, but as we choose to see it.
Exactly, and it's that perspective that makes Don Quixote's adventures so endearing and enduring. As our valiant Don Quixote and his ever-faithful squire Sancho Panza wander further, they come across a river. There, they find a small boat, untethered, bobbing gently in the water. Quixote, with his ever-vivid imagination, sees this as an enchanted bark sent by some benevolent magician to carry them to some noble quest.
An enchanted bark? That sounds like a setup for another wild misadventure.
You're not wrong, Olivia. With no hesitation, Quixote leaps into the boat, dragging Sancho along with him. They drift downstream, carried by the current, expecting to be led to some grand adventure.
And let me guess, the adventure finds them?
In a manner of speaking, yes. They encounter a group of fishermen who are repairing their nets. Quixote, in his delusion, believes these humble fishermen to be enchanters, casting spells upon the waters.
Poor fishermen. They must have been so confused.
Indeed, they were, and when they try to stop Quixote from damaging their nets, he attacks, convinced they are trying to prevent him from fulfilling his chivalrous quest.
It seems no matter where he goes, Don Quixote finds himself in the thick of battle even if he has to invent it himself.
That's just it. His reality is a tapestry woven from his own convictions and fantasies. And in this instance, it leads to a tangle with the fishermen and a hefty fine for the damages.
It's a costly adventure then, but I suppose for Quixote, the price of living out his knightly tales is worth any cost.
Exactly. To him, these are not mere mishaps. They are the trials and tribulations of a true knight-errant. And so, our hero's journey continues, ever driven by Don Quixote's indomitable spirit. As the sun sets on another day of adventure, Don Quixote and Sancho Panza encounter a new challenger, the Knight of the Mirrors. This enigmatic figure claims to be a greater knight than Quixote and vows to prove it in combat.
A Knight of Mirrors? That's quite the opponent.
Indeed. The Knight of the Mirrors is actually a friend of Quixote's disguised, hoping to convince him to abandon his mad quest and return home.
A clever ruse, but does it work?
Not quite. They engage in a joust, and despite the Knight of the Mirror's best efforts, Don Quixote emerges victorious, shattering his opponent's mirrored armor.
So much for reflection.
Exactly, but the victory is bittersweet. Quixote remains oblivious to the true identity of his foe and the concern behind the challenge.
It's a poignant moment, isn't it? His friends are trying to reach out, but he's lost in his own world.
It's one of the many layers of this story. The people around Quixote are affected by his dreams, for better or worse.
It makes you wonder about the dreams we chase and the impact they have on those we care about.
A profound thought. And as we continue with Don Quixote's adventures, we'll see just how deep the rabbit hole goes. In the heart of an ancient castle, Don Quixote and Sancho Panza discover a curious artifact, an enchanted head made of brass that can answer any question posed to it.
An enchanted head? Now, that's something you don't see every day.
True, and our knight, ever in search of wisdom, asks the head about his beloved Dulcinea and his own chivalrous quest.
What does the head say?
It speaks in riddles, offering cryptic answers that leave more questions than they resolve. But to Quixote, each word is a treasure, a clue to unlocking the mysteries of his adventure.
I bet he could spend hours deciphering those riddles.
Oh, he could. But the enchantment has a limit, and soon the head falls silent, leaving our heroes to ponder its words.
It's like a metaphor for life, isn't it? We seek answers, but often, we're left with more questions.
Exactly. And it's in the search for those answers that we find our true journey.
It's a journey that Don Quixote seems to embrace wholeheartedly.
He does. And as we continue to follow his path, we'll see just how deep his quest for knowledge and adventure goes. As the sun casts its golden rays over the city of Barcelona, Don Quixote's journey takes an unexpected turn. He encounters a new rival, the Knight of the White Moon, who challenges him to a duel.
Another challenger? The Knight of the White Moon sounds formidable.
He is indeed, and the stakes are high. The Knight of the White Moon demands that if Quixote loses, he must abandon his knightly quests for a year.
That could mean the end of his adventures.
It could. They meet on the beach, their silhouettes framed against the vast sea. The duel is swift, and Don Quixote is unhorsed, defeated by the mysterious knight.
So, what does this mean for our hero?
It means a return to his village, a respite from his chivalric fantasies. The Knight of the White Moon is revealed to be a student from Quixote's hometown, sent to bring the wandering knight back to reality.
It's a bittersweet moment. His quest is over, but perhaps it's for the best.
Perhaps, but the spirit of Don Quixote's quest, the dreams, the valor, the pursuit of an ideal, those will never be vanquished. As the curtains draw to a close on our tale, Don Quixote, defeated and disheartened, returns to his village. The once valiant knight now seems a mere shadow of his former self.
It's a somber homecoming. After all his grand adventures, this feels anticlimactic.
Indeed, but there's a certain peace to it. Our knight has laid down his arms, and with it, the weight of his delusions. He's come to accept the simplicity of his true life.
There's dignity in that, isn't there? In recognizing one's own reality.
There is. In his final days, Don Quixote renounces his chivalric fantasies, but the fire of his imagination never truly dies.
So, he's still a dreamer at heart.
Always. And in the end, he passes away as Alonso Quixano the Good, a man loved and mourned by those who knew him.
Don Quixote may be gone, but his story remains, a testament to the power of dreams and the enduring spirit of adventure.
Precisely. And though our journey through his story ends here, the legacy of Don Quixote lives on, inspiring us to find the extraordinary in our ordinary lives.
To dream the impossible dream.
To fight the unbeatable foe. To bear with unbearable sorrow. And to run where the brave dare not go.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from around the world.
If you love our artistic creations, pop over to our Patreon to purchase our exclusive image works. Thank you for your support.